I'll give Kotaku props for realizing they have a really big problem. But that's as far as their self-awareness goes, because their solution to the problem that they recognize and admit they have is doubling down on everything that brought this problem upon them. Hello, Kotaku. It's me, your new editor-in-chief. Patricia Hernandez is back after her previous stint as deputy editor. Uh-oh. Another changing of the guard. Hello, Shitaku, we meet again, but this time nobody can stop me. Truthfully, I've been avoiding writing this post, the one that acknowledges I'm back, and also I'm in charge now. At first, this was easy. Being hired 2 weeks before E3 meant I had little time to do anything but plan for the show, but now it's weird to keep publishing stuff without announcing myself more officially, so here I am. This is it. It's a scary proposition to write this post because it means laying out my vision for the site. It involves laying 6 feet under. And writing it down like this means that you know what it is that I want to do, but more crucially, get to judge if I'm living up to the standards I set out. That's terrifying. Well, if your goal is to sink the company, I have all the faith in the world that you will succeed. That's terrifying because what I want for Kotaku isn't just ambitions. Of course I want more readers, which is why I keep chasing them all away and insulting them. Of course I want to publish fearless writing, which is why I keep parroting all of the establishment talking points. Everything that's supported by all the governments and big corpos and the media. I am sitting here fearlessly saying everything that's safe to say in current year. Everything that's supported by the entire establishment. Criticism and reporting. The only ones doing real reporting right now are Project Veritas. And of course, I want to foster a community where everyone feels welcome, except for anyone who doesn't agree with me, because then they're intolerant and bigoted, and we don't tolerate intolerance here. Somehow, that's the easy part. Many of these things are a continuation of what Shitaku is already known for, and why you're having a problem in the first place. But also, I want to dismantle and redefine what a video game website can be. I do not like what I see. Where to even begin? So you realize you're having a problem. That you have a political drama site masquerading as a video game site, right? Oh, no. The problem is too much video games, not enough politics. I hate that nearly every website's day-to-day is predicated on the release schedule and news cycle set by publishers. If you guys actually did your jobs and played the games you reviewed, you'd always have something to do. I hate the coverage cycle of big-budget video games and how a game is never more important than when it doesn't exist yet. I can agree with that. That's something this industry, both the media and the publishers, have created, though, for themselves. Or when it's just launched. I hate that so much of what video game websites consider worthy of coverage is often written for a specific type of presumed reader. So you want to stop catering to your actual audience and stab them in the back to try to go for some phantom audience. I hear that always works very well. Go ahead. It does not matter if a website is considered regressive. It says everything that when writing about certain issues, video game websites often have to take care in explaining basic-ass concepts like racism is real. Yeah, see, this is where they trip up, though. Racism is real, but the real racists seem to have a hard time coming to terms with the fact that they are the problem. They call everyone else racist, bigot, Nazi, while they, the real racists, are out spreading racism and race hustling. And they legitimately don't see it. Like, they're not being deceptive, they're just useful idiots. At some point, having to explain power dynamics over and over again is not a question of informing the readership. It is a tacit acknowledgement that our audience likely has a specific background. And consequently, that reality means that even as we cover more mainstream subjects or marginalized identities, the writing is not truly for that wider audience. and this haunts me. The presumed reader looks or sounds nothing like me, yet here I am, leading a video game site. First off, Kotaku has not been a video game site for at least a decade, so shut up with that shit, okay? Not buying it. And second off, I'm sure you totally rose to that position on merit. And third, she's proven exactly what I was just saying. They're going to take the approach of screw our audience. We're going to pander to literally everyone but these people and see where it gets us. So what I'm trying to get at is I am really looking forward to a lot of new content for my channel. I'm going to start looking at mansions or something to buy with all the money I'll be making ripping on this dumpster fire. I wish that was true. I wish I could get a mansion. It's not a matter of being woke. It's a matter of survival. Video game websites as they exist now repeatedly fail to represent the wide swath of people who play games. So here's your problem. In the statistics, they count grannies who play Candy Crush on a phone as gamers. And they use that to tout their numbers that over half of all gamers are women, guys. Where most people, when they hear gamer, they think of core gamers. And they're trying to appeal to people who, quite honestly, your average Candy Crush playing granny has no interest in video game news sites. But you're going to change that, aren't you? Go ahead. Go right ahead. This entire industry can sink itself for all I care. I'll be here to replace it. And every year that passes, this failure becomes more and more evident. Everyone plays games now, yet most of these people hardly frequent video game websites unless they need to know how to do something. Wow, that is actually a surprising amount of self-awareness right here. It's almost as if they understand they're worthless. Video game websites may not be failing as bad as they are now if they stuck to what people actually visited them for, that being news, walkthroughs, things like that. If I want to be lied to about political agendas, I'd turn on CNN. I don't need to go to Kotaku for my daily dose of fake news and propaganda. And if we do reach this mythical mainstream gamer, it's likely because Google willed it, not because we've cultivated that dedicated readership. Well, considering that you work for a website that's been actively at war with its own audience for a few years, good luck. Since social media websites throttle who can or cannot see our work, we spend our time worshiping the fickle SEO gods. Welcome to the club. Your favorite game website is likely quietly bankrolled by guides and service writers who try to predict what people will search next, not news writers, critics, or reviewers. Playing that traffic game and being good at it, of course, is only a temporary salve. Yesterday was Facebook, today it's Google, tomorrow, who knows? I've never used either. I mean, I guess YouTube counts as using Google, but I have never once used Facebook. Like, that is such a waste. People who waste money on Facebook ads like that just makes me facepalm. They're literally just throwing their money away. Hilariously, gaming websites fail the capital G gamer repeatedly too. The perpetual focus on what's coming next is not compatible with the idea that we are here to cut through the hype. If you go to a quote-unquote gaming website in current year, you see almost nothing but politics. Yeah, don't pre-order games, we say, while dutifully covering the big event that exists to get you excited about the next big thing. Okay, this one I can agree with. Another excellent point. If only you did more of this and less of all that other shit, you guys wouldn't be failing. Meanwhile, advances like Xbox Game Pass destroy the release cycle modern gaming websites have relied on for years. Adapt or die, that's the way of the world. What's new and shiny has no bearing on what will actually take off with the public, as evidenced by Among Us. Among Us was like 2 years old before it took off. And I think it only took off because the right person streamed it. But yeah, you're right. There is no predicting what's going to be popular. If this is something you could control, people would be making trillions doing it. New in and of itself might be an outdated concept in the age of remakes, remasters, and re-releases across generations. Another actually very good point. The last 2 years have had a dearth of show-stopping game releases between Corona-chan and the new console generation, yet at the same time, there are more games than ever. Old releases, not new games, perennially top the gaming charts of late. I'm beginning to think my future grandchildren, dude, I'm guessing you're a feminist. I don't think you're going to have any. We'll still have to play the same duct-taped version of GTA Online that I have. Ouch. Imagine playing GTA Online. GTA 5 was good, though. It's tough to wrangle all of this, but it's not like websites don't try. Here at Shitaku, we have this concept of embedding within games, best described as an effort to continue covering games as they evolve and grow. When I was at Polygon, we called these living games. Live services, huh? But the same basic idea applies. Games get updates, audiences change. We try our best to reflect that on the page as it actually exists, not as PR says. If this was true, the site wouldn't be failing like it is now. If they focused on just things like this, if I knew I could go to Kotaku.com and I'll see nothing but the latest game updates, like maybe I can go to the one tag I'm interested in, and this game is getting an update next week. Sweet. But no, the reason sites like Kotaku are failing is because those of us who actually want game industry related news have to sift through identity politics, woke garbage to get to it. It's become so tedious, we just it's not even worth the effort. I could just go to the Twitter site of the publisher, get my info there. But video game websites as they exist now cannot truly keep up with our subject matter. Well, maybe if you focused more on keeping up with the subject matter and less about politics, you'd be able to. Games are not designed to take up as much of your time as possible, sometimes even punishing you for not logging in daily. Again, a very good point. Being up to date on certain big games is a job unto its own, only achievable if you focus solely on that title alone, or at least only a few of them. But the mandate of a video game website is to cover widely. We have to make choices about which games we dig into and which games we cover more casually. All of this has to be balanced while publishing daily, multiple times a day. These pieces also require time to research and report. When has the truth ever stopped you from spreading your lies, though? What research? Now, doing this job well often means sacrificing free time. Well, considering that you're not doing it well, given the state of the website, I think there's better uses for your time. Even as video game outlets try to provide writers with better conditions, like having game time during work hours. Now, honestly, that should be a given. If you're a game reviewer in particular, and your boss rides your ass for playing the game you're supposed to review during work hours, you should quit immediately. And most people who do this for a living clock out and then log into whatever they're covering next. When the perfect game is one that gives you dozens of hours of playtime, there just aren't enough hours to stay abreast of everything that's out there. Not if you want to produce thoughtful writing anyway. Now, this is something I could sympathize with and believe if these people produced thoughtful writing, but I haven't seen it. Not for a long time anyway. I did used to actually read Kotaku like 10 years ago. It was actually pretty good back then. Burnout is endemic, which is ironic when you consider the ongoing push to highlight crunch conditions at studios. But because playing video games does not really seem like work, it's not something reporters can talk about freely without sounding like assholes. Woe is us, it's a tragedy that we have to sacrifice a weekend to properly cover a big game that isn't available to the public yet. What is there to complain about when we probably got the game for free? Yes, you are assholes. And let me explain. I understand that when you turn a hobby into a job, it stops being fun after a while. I get that. But here's the thing. There is no shortage of people who would gladly take your job. If you can't take it anymore, if you start viewing playing video games as more of a job than a hobby now, leave and let someone else replace you who still enjoys it. Because the more bitter you get, the more it shows in your writing. This is, again, another one of the reasons nobody likes you. Vying for relevance versus dwindling time is sometimes only the start. Writers, especially those with marginalized identities, often have to grapple with nonstop anger. Anger over suggesting that video games reflect the real world in any way, shape, or form. Anger that we get paid to do something many people would gladly do for free. I know, right? Why can't we just go back to those days? Actually, no, we have. We have. If you want decent game journalism, go to like the Steam store page of a game and read the reviews. Every time a gamer leaves a review for a game they played, they are doing these journalists' jobs for free. And just like when it comes to these journalists, not every one of those reviewers is going to be good, but eventually you find the ones who are and you follow them. And that's why Kotaku is failing. Everyone found better sources of information and are already over there. So anger stoked by influencers who need you to believe that game journalists are awful and they alone have your interests at heart. Nah, that's blatant BS right there. Never forget who started all of this. Who fired the first shots of Gamergate? Was it influencers? Or was it these game journalists that were rightly realizing that they were being replaced? So they tried to launch a coordinated attack of hit pieces on their main competition and take them out. No sympathy here. You started this fight, and now you're crying that you can't handle it anymore, that you can't win it anymore? Seriously? And maybe I would have sympathy for an actual journalist, but these people are activists. Anger fueled by 4 years of constant propaganda that mainstream media is fake news and not to be trusted. Oh, you mean by 4 years of having that proven? Maybe if you weren't fake news and you could be trusted, this wouldn't be a problem. Anger that the news we report sometimes doesn't present video games and its communities in a positive light to the wider public. The days when game journalism was by fans for fans, those were great. We can have that back. We kind of do, just not in the legacy industry. I don't think this latent yet ongoing anger comes from the majority of our intended or presumed audience. Really, it's likely not even statistically significant compared to the millions of readers who read our work daily and love what we do. Now, you probably have millions reading daily, but they don't love it. They fall for the clickbait. They fall for the outrage mongering. And you want to talk about statistically significant audiences? Look at what happens to all these corporations that care more about appealing to Twitter outrage mobs than their customers. Why don't you talk about statistical significance there? But harm does not require an army. All it takes is one asshole going out of the way to ensure a writer sees their bigoted screed. There's always at least one. Now we're back to the complete lack of self-awareness. How about when one of you guys launches a hit piece against us and the entire world sees it? It's not like a private DM, like, oh, go Minecraft yourself. No, you guys launch hit pieces at people that get the attention of the entire world. You ruin lives. And then you expect sympathy when people don't like that? This is why nobody likes you. This is why your profession is on the way out. You abandoned journalism a long time ago. Now you're all about activism. I do not want to tell my writers to grow thicker skin, though inevitably they do. Oh, press X to doubt. Game journalists inevitably growing thicker skin? Really? When has that ever happened? I want the world to be a kinder place. It shouldn't require bravery to write about fucking video games. All right. If you wrote about video games, I could actually sympathize. But you're not. You're using video games as a medium to attack people with your bullshit activism. That's why nobody likes you. But what I'm getting at here is I'm terrified about my tenure at Kotaku because I'm an idealist. Translation, my truth trumps objective reality. We'll see how well that works out. Realistically, a lot of what I just described cannot possibly be changed by a single person or even a team of people, or even everybody, really. By printing this, I'm opening myself up to criticism every time I don't change all the larger forces governing this work. I haven't even touched on institutional struggles here. Institutional struggles like maintaining your access, yeah? Having to suck the dicks of these publishers constantly, or else they'll stop sending you those free review copies early. But they aren't a secret to anyone who has read any geo media sites over the last few years. Oh, yeah, you're bitching about being told to stick to video games instead of activism, huh? Failure seems inevitable. At least you recognize that. But I'm the sort of cursed person who cannot shoot for anything less than changing the way the game is played. Keep losing? Change the rules, huh? What would that even look like anyway? Now we get to see their vision of the future. I want Shitaku to reflect things that are real. The end of escapism. I want to print stories that you be able to tell a friend about at a bar even if they don't play games. Didn't you just say that everyone plays games now? What's your problem? Either everyone's a gamer now or they aren't. The way that we talk about games on the site should be the same way we talk about it in actual conversation. Oh, there we go. That's the problem. We got to remember what these people's definition of conversation is. When they say conversation, they mean they're going to be lecturing you and you're just going to sit there nodding and agreeing with them. That's their idea of a conversation. And they've been living in their echo chamber for so long that that's the only type of conversation they've been having. I do not care if the language or attitude at Shitaku appears proper and respectable. Well, it hasn't been either of those things for like a decade, so what's even the point of saying that? Fuck that. Games are human. Games? Did you mean to say gamers? Games are human, and so are we. No, you're NPCs. There's a little bit of a difference there. Anytime there's a discrepancy between what we actually think and what lives on the page is when we betray not only our readers, but ourselves. And I actually agree with this attitude. I want every last one of these woke activists to be very vocal about who they are and what they believe in, because it makes it so much easier for me to know who to avoid. I can't stand it when I invest sometimes months of my life, months of time, getting to know somebody, thinking that, this person could become a good friend. Maybe this is someone I can hang out with. And then they take the mask off and the wokeness reveals itself. It would be so much easier if the people that I want to avoid advertised themselves so I didn't waste my time interacting with them any more than absolutely necessary. I wish all of them would do this instead of trying to infiltrate and subvert everything we do, instead of trying to pretend to be one of us. So please, yes, I want more of this. I want to move away from treating gaming like a product or an industry, which is what it is, instead examining them more as microcosms for the human condition. Yep. Someone just wants to sniff her own farts. I'm gonna show Mom that my degree wasn't useless. One of these days, I'm not gonna be a failure. Games are worlds unto their own, often developing not only customs, traditions, and dedicated languages, but also their own vectors of power and influence. Now, that's absolutely true. And too bad you want to force them to be limited to what the real world is. People like me want to explore ideas that are taboo in the real world because in fantasy we can do that. But you guys are holding everyone back. Yeah, the biggest YouTuber in the world started out playing video games, and sure, Pokemon Go took over the outside world for a summer a few years back. Yeah. Pokemon Go wasn't even a game. I think it might be a game now, but it was a fucking scavenger hunt when it started. I actually think that Pokemon Go was the message the industry needed to hear from the so-called consumers, the so-called gamers. The message that Pokemon Go sent the industry was, quote unquote, gamers don't want video games. They want scavenger hunts. They want social activities. They want things like that. And that's what it's all becoming. The largest entertainment properties on Earth are created using game engines, and nearly everyone has a device that plays games now. The list of reasons why games matter is long, and if you're reading this, chances are good that you know much of this already. I probably don't need to give you the whole spiel about how games are worth billions and are technically larger than a business like the movie industry. And so you're doing your best to reverse that, huh? I mentioned these accomplishments not to prove gaming is worth taking seriously. I wish you guys would take it seriously instead of trying to use it as an activism platform. That's my problem with most of these people. I see an industry to be taken seriously. They see a platform for their activism that has a large built-in audience. But to take that thought one step further, if games are indeed as important as we say they are, then we should feel comfortable enough to hold them to a higher standard. Same thing with game journalism, but they don't like it when we hold them to their higher standards. If we truly respect this space, we should be able to challenge the video game industry, its products, and the communities surrounding it. I agree 100% with this statement. But here's where the lack of self-awareness kicks in again. Game journalists count as part of the communities surrounding it. And yet they hate it when you hold them to this standard. If we want the world to stop treating games like mere toys, we also have to stop treating video games like a wilting flower that must be protected at all costs. Well, if people like you quit trying to destroy it, we may stop having to constantly protect it. It's easy. The challenge for a self-proclaimed gaming website like Kotaku is finding the right balance and coverage. Much of what I just described is the basic mandate of any good news organization. Nothing but the truth is treated as sacred. Why can't they live up to that standard? Why? The harder so is that a website can do all of that while also retaining a sense of humor. Games matter, but also games are silly and weird because humans are silly and weird. Stating the truth is not about reserving space for heady topics. It's about giving ourselves permission to have fun on the page. If you just let go of your activist rage, you'd be able to have fun again. But you're too busy finding things to be offended by to ever have fun. Don't you realize you are your own worst enemy if your goal is to have fun? You literally manufacture problems to be outraged at. How could you ever have fun when you are this way? Something's wrong with you. Some of what I've outlined is a continuation of the approach started by my predecessor, Stephen Totilo. But I don't want just more Kotaku with a different stable of writers and editors. Why bother? The future of Kotaku, to me, spans beyond video games. So, more Kotaku, just with a different stable of writers and editors. When was the last time Kotaku was truly about games? I still say it was about 10 years ago. Games will always be the driving force as long as they're a good platform for activism. But I'd like to think that what unites us isn't our willingness to hold a controller. Nerds are defined by fandom and an insatiable curiosity for how things work. Sometimes that drive and obsession unfolds in video games, but not always. Yeah, another fake geek self-proclaiming as a nerd. Yeah, that's the biggest red flag right there. And then also trying to say that they're defined by fandom. So, hey, either you're part of our in-group or else. To properly showcase video game culture, it's necessary to talk about our digital lives more broadly. We live in a society where your exercise bike has a leaderboard and language apps have daily challenges. Maintaining anyone's attention now necessitates treating platforms, their algorithms, and their functions like systems that can be gamed and won. Games provide a crucial framework for parsing modern life, and Shitaku will now be an attempt to capture that. I believe a different type of video game site is possible. Oh, you mean one that has nothing to do with video games? That's what you've been trying to do for years. I hope you want to believe in that too. Yeah, I too believe that we could get back to a game press that's by fans, for fans. It was so much better back then, before all of these failures, like all of these journalism school dropouts invaded. If we can get back to that, we can get back to much better times, guaranteed. But since that's not going to happen anytime soon, and honestly, it doesn't really need to, because YouTubers and streamers are replacing these guys. They're not needed anymore. I'll just continue making my own. Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.